Yeah, let me know we live. Let me know we live, man.
Clear, I don't know why he cited that text. We'll go over all of this on the show.
Yeah, good. We live. But
All right. Find a live stream. Everybody put up in the building, man. Yeah, I see the live. Yeah, man. Right black at you again, man, on Saturday, man. Black Egypt Revisited, part one. It was good. It was good. Chef, peace, peace, peace. Hey, yo, Chef, I'm finna go over that damn Ujawu smash them argument, bro. I went back and listened to that. I think, I mean, Ujawu, we at the time we thought Smash was winning that argument. When I went back and looked, I think Ujawu was putting hands and feet on them boys, bro. So we gonna go back over that and let everybody come into the room. Shout out to Ujawu. I'm finna share some of his work and what he was talking about in terms of the language. Peace, Bongo. Yeah, yeah, man. We're gonna get into it. Just had a couple hours argument over damn KMT, the place name. Man, we trying to set up a conscious community UNESCO, man. We can get a small group of Egypt scholars, man. Because I'm realizing, Chef, bro, we need a Santa Ron, bro. We got both sides arguing. We need a Santa Ron to come in and just clear it up completely, bro. Everybody put their homework on the table, face up. Don't hide your hand. Don't hide your hand with your fist balled up. We're gonna put all our ideas on the table. Yeah, and all our ideas on the table. We're gonna let the expert decide, man. We'll see how sound our argument is, man. Because different sides interviewing different people, and then both sides saying they win. Like how, and then we all disagree. And we watching the expert disagree, and they're still saying they agree, and they're not presenting to them what they present to us. So yeah, I'm trying to set. We need to set something up. Conscious Community UNESCO, man. UNESCO. UNESCO, man. Money for that. But hey, for real, man, yo, cause that shit end all that shit, bro. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Real for real. That should have put all that shit to rest. Man. The Peppy Kim, the Henny Kim argument. I got in fact, where everybody pile in. Let me get play a little bit from what Jawa was talking about and how their argument wasn't sound. Get to where everybody come in. Joel and B heard a knee. Oh man, and I got money on it. And we'll say that for another thing. We'll say that. Hope he went out, bro. So get the job.
All right, that was just the part now y'all had to see, just so y'all can know what he was talking about, that the good brother's about to reference here. When we get where they stopped it, let's get to where they stopped it. Right about it.
Who he himself admits that he said there's something going on.
Professor at New York University. I actually worked with him when I was scholar in residence here at NYU. And I actually have all of his files that were thrown away in the trash by NYU. That's another story. But Ogden, in this, next slide. Well, before I come back to Ogden, I'm going to.
Okay, I want to pause it there and not to conflate the issue. And so what needs to be addressed here is what Dr. Beatty was saying when it came to the pyramid text. All right. And he made a reference to the brother Reggie and some points that the brother Reggie made as well. And so let's offer clarification for our good brothers, both
I see you,
brother Reggie and Dr. Mario Beatty, who he himself admits that he said there's something going on with this idea of a kemet, but he doesn't necessarily know what it is. All right. So let's help them out and go over this for them. So just to kind of go back now, if you all are familiar with the previous videos that we did, we had the brother Reggie on our channel, and he gave a presentation. You know, we gave him the opportunity to give his full presentation uninterrupted, and he gave a presentation on his contribution of this particular topic. And during that presentation, he had offered this particular slide here.
Here we go.
And he also said the same thing, similar things at this ASCAC conference.
Now he putting on
So
this.
here is
hold on. He putting on his white gloves right now. Putting on them white gloves, calling us assistant out to the stage, and watch how this go down. It's called Metal Netter Magic, but I'm about to show you the tricks. Let's go.
Screenshot of his particular slide that he used when presenting. Now, what he says here, I'll just read it. He says both Asar is dependent on of his European quote, but does not check other sources. Both are incorrect. The first usage is in the pyramid text of Pepi. Now, mind you, this is at a point where the brother Reggie is attacking Ogden Gole, which is the same thing that same person that Dr. Mario Beatty brings up. And so you're going to see the connection between brother Reggie and Dr. Mario Beatty, where they're arguing the same thing, where they're referencing each other. So brother Reggie says that Ogden Gole is incorrect. And Asar, brother Asar Motep, is incorrect. And the first usage of Kemet is in the pyramid text of Pepi, utterance 674, section 1998b. And he says, Kemetiyu. Well, here it is in the pyramid text. Those of Kemetiyu. All right. So hopefully you all can see that. And it says he is incorrect, speaking about Asar Motep. And then in red, he has he and his team does not know chronology. And by his team, brother Reggie is referring to myself and the brother Sanjetti. All right. And so here is the transliteration of that particular line. And then the translation, it says, stand in front of the chiefs, divine ancestors of Kemetiyu Hep. And so here's the actual hand transcription, all right, of that particular line of 1998, A and B. And then this is brother Reggie's notes on the side. He says, this plate is hidden from almost every translation of the pyramid text, but is referred to. Egyptologists hide this. And that
I don't know if he muted it there or what. See what's going on.
was originally a mythical land of black concepts such as Kemwer, Per Kem Kem, a black ancestral house associated with the Nubian goddess Bes. So this is me live again, y'all. Y'all realize that Reggie originally says that Kemet was a mythical land of black concepts. All right, so keep that in mind as well. We don't hear that.
And just let me say, Reggie's side note says, this plate is hidden from almost every translation of the pyramid text, but is referred to. My red flag come at Egyptologists hide this. That's always a red. That's always a red flag. Because if they hide it, they ain't do a good job. If Reggie came and find it, Reggie all the way in New York, he found it. So let's continue.
Any claims recently, but that was definitely, these are brother Reggie's words. All right. So I'm gonna let it play. So all of that is Reggie's commentary based on this. So this is what is being referred to. All right. Now, in terms of this conspiracy that this is somehow hidden from people and that Egyptologists hide this, et cetera, you know, when Reggie made those comments and said those things,
All right, this the first. Here go the first sleight of hand trick. So, Brother Ujahu, and we have to keep the overall conversation in mind. Here, brother, well, let's let him do what he's doing before I explain what he's doing.
I told him that he's incorrect, that it's known, it's in the dictionaries, and I actually presented this as an exhibit to show that you can look this up online. Anybody can look this up and see right here in the TLA, which is the online Wörterbuch dictionary, German dictionary, and you can see these very same lines and the very same entries where you can see this information. All right, so it's not hidden at all. So this is me live again, y'all. Now I paused it right here because Smash paused the video and broke it up so that the reason why I have this slide up at that time is now lost. So I'm gonna ask the chat, and I know there's a delay. What was the reason that I just stated of the purpose of me showing this particular slide with these entries that you see on the screen right now? All right, I'm gonna ask that of the chat. What did I actually say was the reason that I show this particular slide? And I'm not gonna wait for an answer, but I would like for y'all to answer. But I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna repeat what I said in the video, and you all can match it up in your head. I specifically said that I show this as an exhibit to show that this passage that Reggie claims that is hidden in some conspiratorial way, that is not hidden, and that is just hidden from him, but anybody can look it up in the dictionary. It's available in the TLA. This is something that anybody who studies and familiar with these dictionaries and the TLA and these online databases have readily access. This is free. This is absolutely free, a free service. It's not hidden. Nobody's.
No, I just wanted to remind you. Remember, at this time, he had no idea that the TLA existed, and we introduced it to him.
There you go. Exactly. So this is confirmation that he didn't know about it, because if he knew about it, he wouldn't have made the statement as if scholars are trying to hide this kind of stuff. This stuff is.
Damn, they said back then, Ray didn't even know about the TLA. Oh man, shots fired. Just keep it going.
Readily available. It's been available. All right. So just want to keep that in mind. And then Kurt Seth's rendition of the pyramid text and everything has been available. And I believe it's been out of copyright where it's floating around online where you could download it for free. All right. So that's the purpose of me showing this particular slide. So what Smash is doing, he broke up the flow of my statements, but he's going to charge me of my first magic trick of magic medu nature and so on. So you're gonna hear him. So I'm gonna let it play and then we'll address some more.
All right, but let's stop and understand why this being in your face but not reading what it says is very significant. It's because if you go to the right and can read what it says small on each one of these definitions, even up here where you probably can make it out, it says Kemetu, Egyptians. Obviously, it's in your face, but it's not being mentioned that the reference that we're going to, which actually has this Kemetiu in the qualified TLA, says you will stand before the inhabitants of Egypt like a Threbus. Each one of these, you will stand before the inhabitants of Egypt like a Threbus. So that's that first little trick. That's a standing on the corner of Vegas trick. Probably didn't get you to stop because you ain't peek out what it's going to lead up to. What we have here is a source that he's using to make another point about Reggie's error. Yes, ultimately, this source agrees with Reggie. You see, this source does not say the inhabitants of a Threbus. But watch what he do as soon as he take it off. And notice how he noticed, because he pulled his cursor over here, so that's when he peeked. You can watch how I'm just
Online,
definition with our hand.
That the sources are given in our text for a Threbus for this part. So I just want to say that. So this right here either confirms that that Smash didn't read the book or he didn't understand the book, or there's games being played. All right. But even in this video last night, I showed a source, and it's listed in the 2019 essay book that we did collectively. So before I play it, sorry, I don't know if you had any comments on that.
My bad. I'm thinking I'm unmuted. I'm ready to read what we wrote in the text.
You want to say it again?
I said I'm ready to read what we actually wrote in the text. Okay,
you want to share that?
Yeah. Right. So in this section, I'm discussing the nature of the three strokes.
And I know you're hearing that. There's that two people too. Right here right now. Hey, we gotta get a clip of that, man. Chef, we need you to get some of these doggone science bots out of TLA. But I see the two people determined right there for the surf. I see another example that we let it play for a little while.
In the words and how they're not all plural, right? And in the Egyptological literature, you'll see them refer to them sometimes as false plurals, but that's not accurate. And so starting on, and so those who have the text, you can confirm that this is in the text, starting on page 78, right? So I'm gonna start from here because we're discussing the form Kemet with the seated man and woman in the three plural strokes. That's in the Kahun papyrus.
Oh man, I landed straight on it, man. That's what we were arguing about in the damn Discord, man. Let's get it.
And so I say, thus, let me see if I can increase. Matter of fact, I think I can. Full screen mode. Oop, go back up. And I'm gonna just do that. So that'll be a little bit clearer. All righty.
Yes, clear.
All right. So starting from where you see the mouse here, it says, we argue here that Kemet is to be understood as the nation in the abstract and not the inhabitants of. Grammatically, if we wanted to say the inhabitants of Kemet, we would have to write Kemetiu, and this is the hieroglyphs for that. However, although this form is present in the literature, the word Kemetiu is never used to refer to the Egyptians as a whole. They refer to themselves simply as Remech. There are many Egyptological publications that render Kemetiu as Egyptians, including the Ehrman and Grappal Wörterbuch. However, scholars have come to realize that this is a mistranslation and only refers to a nome called Kemet, short for Kemet Weret, in Lower Egypt. In many publications, remember that the Ehrman and Grappol, at least for volume 5, for which the Kim entries are, that I think that was published in 1956. So let's keep the chronology. So remember what I stated, that the TLA, all they do is just take the entries from the dictionaries and digitize them. Right? They don't update the entries. So in many publications, it is simply known as Kim were. And I get a citation here. The capital of this nome was known as Hut Hiri Ibit, which became Greek Athribis. So notice the language that is being used here. In many publications, it's simply known as Kim were. The capital of this nome, so the capital is a smaller space of a greater expanse of land. So just like,
Hey, so I got that good narrator voice. So I got that doggone that professor type voice. So his tone, got the authoritative tone going on.
For Texas is the capital for the state of Texas, right? So the capital of this nome was known as Hut Hiri Ibit, which became Greek Athribis. Essentially, the entire area became known as Athribis and is today called Tel Atrib. So when they're sitting here making these arguments that we're saying that Kim were equals Athribis and we're trying to say that it's connected to the temple and it came later and all, they didn't read. They can't read and understand. They just make up stuff. They just make up arguments that we're not making. So this clearly gives you the timeline, or that gives you the context for how Athribis came to be, right? So and it's today called Tel Atrib. Rainer Hanning, in his De Sprach der Pharaonen Ribis Hanwörterbuch Ägyptisch Deutsch, correctly defines Kemetiu as Lut aus Atrib, people from Athribis. 1995, 883 is the page number. Jean Leclant, in his journal article, now I'll just translate, from the Pyramid of Pepi I, the north wall of passage AF, in the antechamber and the funerary chamber, confirms as well that Kemetiu is in fact a reference to Athribis, based on his analysis of the pyramid text of Pepi I. He informs us, and keep this in mind, remember it was Pepi I, and it's today called Tel Atrib. Rainer Hanning, in his argue Sprach der Pharaonen Ribis Hanwörterbuch Ägyptisch
All right, but I'm back, y'all. My damn, I booted out for a second, man. Go back to it. I should have been reboot this computer real quick. before I start this month. Hold on a second. I got booted out for a second. I'm back now. It's a little delay, so you're gonna hear me coming in soon.
On the screen, Smash says no Athribis definition for Kemet on that page. So this is what I meant last night when I told Smash that he is the king of strawman.
All of our points are in the text. Else, he's good at that. And so here's the journal article from the review, the Egyptology, right, from 1975. And here is exactly what I cited, in our 2019 text. So all of this was even presented again when we made our first video critiquing Dr. Mario Beatty, who made that claim. And that's why we said that Dr. Beatty on this point is not up to date when it comes to the scholarship. And you can see it clearly. This is a screenshot from the text, and here is my translation. And so anybody can compare them. And then we do some more here, and where's that other section? So remember when he brought up this, we'll probably get to this later. Smash said that why didn't I translate it? If he would have paid attention to the first video, here's the translation. And time and time again, we have to keep going over this because they want to keep making videos and say stuff that we allegedly didn't do. It's amazing that the stuff that we actually did do, they never pull up. And then, they just make up stuff talking about what we did do, but can never pull up exactly what they say that we actually did in terms of making up, particular arguments. And so even when you look at even the Vigus dictionary, the 2018, the latest one, he has Kemet Tu, those of Athribis. And so this whole argument is just null and void. It's just a pointless argument. And it's because Smash don't read and can't read and understand what he reads. He keeps giving
Hey, yo, sauce going in. Get back to it, man. Hey, yo, I've never been in a community where we got literate folks that, what I'm saying, some people scholars, and people are saying like, yo, y'all can't read, man. Y'all can't. It's crazy.
people misinformation. And then, because he talks loud, he thinks he's saying something. And all you have to do is read. All of our points are in the text. You have it I have a 2014 article. I have the 2019 text. I have the 2020 text. In Illusion Volume 2, there's a whole chapter on Kemet. And then I have the whole full book that's coming out in 2023. But instead of reading, they want to make up stuff in their mind because Smash is used to freestyling on his couch, making albums and stuff. He think he could do this with scholarship.
Hey, yo, when the song is bad with the insult, man, that shit is hilarious, man. You going in right now. Let's get back to it.
And it just gotta end. Kemet Tu means those of Athribis, those of Kim were. And the fact that it is Kemet Tu and it is a masculine plural Nisbe adjective, it was Kemet. And I'll stop there.
All right. So I highlighted Smash right now, his comment And so this is going to be a confirmation of the lack.
Hold on, Scarecrow, I don't know how old the video is. Let me go to it. It's over a year ago. Over a year ago. Over a year ago. The name of the video is called, it's on the Seshu channel, that's Wuja channel, the Seshu. The name of the video is called Kim Kim Black Wars, addressing the claims of Jonathan Owens.
Lack of comprehension and confusion. So on the screen, Smash says no Athribis definition for word Kemet
Vigus dictionary, the 28 Vigus
words, these ghost arguments.
And I'll stop there.
All right. So I highlighted Smash right now, his comment. And so this is going to be a confirmation of the lack of comprehension and confusion. So on the screen, Smash says no Athribis definition for Kemet on that page. So this is what I meant last night when I told Smash that he is the king of straw man building, like that Wizard of Oz type straw man, that come to life type straw man arguments. These ghosts, since Smash like to use ghost, the word ghost words, these ghost arguments. Because here's the thing, I'm gonna explain to y'all, make it very crystal clear. Smash is asking for, or last night he asked for, Kemet on the page of the dictionary being defined as Athribis. But yet, if you notice when he's talking about this particular page behind. Let me remove his comment. The page that you see on the screen, or my slide, is talking about the pyramid text of Neith that Dr. Beatty and Reggie got wrong and said the pyramid text of Pepe, but it's the pyramid text of Neith. And in that particular text, it doesn't have the word Kemet right here in this line. It has the word Kemetiyu. Kemetiyu. So the fact that Smash is asking about Kemet while we're discussing and focused on Kemetiyu at this particular point is nonsensical and it's utterly silly at this point. So you see the comment, he's asking us to pay attention, but the brother needs to pay attention because he doesn't understand his own arguments. All right. So, and you're gonna hear that. So I'm gonna play it, and we're probably jumping ahead a little bit, but you're gonna hear this come up again, and you're gonna see it when I join the panel. He's gonna do it again, and we're gonna see it. So I'm gonna let it play a bit. Now, let me interject this as well. Dr. Mario Beatty in his presentation says at this point of this particular line, Dr. Mario Beatty says Kemetiyu implies a Kemet. But he doesn't know one way or the other what's about. By his own admission, he said, we don't know what's really going on here, but Kemetiyu implies a Kemet. And as Asar rightly spoke, because Dr. Mario Beatty understands a bit about the grammar. In order for a Nisbi adjective to exist, these are derived adjectives. They're derived from a predecessor, either a substantive or a preposition. I repeat, a substantive has to exist or a preposition in order for a Nisbi to exist. Kemetiyu is a masculine plural Nisbi adjective. Therefore, it has to be derived from a substantive. That substantive is the very word Kemet. Beatty knows that, but he doesn't know how it's being worked in the text by his own admission. We do, and as you're going to see, I'm gonna let it play. Sorry, do you have something else? I see you put something else up on the screen.
My bad. I just had Gardner ready.
Yeah, if anybody in the back, I can't let nobody in just yet. I got booted out. I'm the host right now, so I'm gotta let people in. So we're trying to get in. I can't let you in right now until I'm come back and rearrange the whole situation. So anybody trying to get in, just hold up a second.
Okay, so let's show that real quick. So we're gonna share something else again, and this is gonna be the grammatical rules for a Nisbe adjective, and what you're about to see is, remember, Kemeti you is a masculine plural Nisbe, and it takes a feminine substantive or noun, and then it changes it into a masculine plural relational adjective, aka Nisbe. And you're about to see the rule for it right here on the screen. I'm gonna share it.
Do you want to read it? Or?
It's on the screen. Okay, I'll read it. This is section 79 in Sir Alan Gardner book. You can pretty much get any Middle Egyptian grammar book, and it's going to say the same or similar. It says adjectives end y as a suffix. The ending y is employed to form adjectives from nouns and prepositions. Didn't I just say that? Because I don't want y'all to think that I'm working some Wujau magic or some Medu Neter magic. This is coming from the expert that people like to appeal to authority for. All right. To go on, he says exactly the same formation exists in the Semitic languages, and the Arabic grammarians have invented for it a term, Nisbi adjective, or adjectives of relationships. This name is sometimes applied to the Egyptian counterparts. Examples are, then he has Resu, and then he has Resu, south wind, masculine, singular masculine, Resi, southern, Receipt, and I'm just going down the list, Resiu, Resiut. Then on the right hand side, and since Asar is sharing that, I don't know if you could do your cursor as I'm reading it. On the right hand side, we have Mehit, or from the word Mehit for north wind, which is a feminine, by the way, you'll have Meheti, northern. Then you have Mehetit. Then you have Mehetiyu. So now, mind you, let's stop here. So
Yeah, man. So as everybody started to pile up in the room, man, I was touching on a little bit of the smash and Ujawa arguments. Now that I understand the meta-net a little better, you know what I mean? I ain't nowhere close to either one of them, but I can now follow the conversation way better than I did back in the day. Most times I didn't pay attention. I was like, why the hell they got these funny writings up? I'm not finna listen to what these dudes is talking about. But now I understand the conversation more, man. I went back and started listening to the older conversations so I can better understand what's being spoken about. And then, we've been having these different little conversations about the color black and seeing black and thinking it's black skin, right? And some people argue it's not symbolism. And we look at people like Mentu Hotep and Amos Nefertari. Let me share screen so I can see what I'm talking about. I'll come up in a second. All right, so y'all can see what we're talking about because, like oftentimes we do look at shit, people look at the wall and see the person painted black and think that that's how the person look in real time. Right, and this is a picture of almost Nefertari. Right, that's her deified. So let's see if it's on this page. Another picture of her, right? That's the mummy. That's the mummy right there too. It's a mummy of almost Nefertari. And there's a good piece in there too about her. Let me see it. There's a good piece in there too about the wig, about what she had in her hair. Right. So yes, let's go right here. Mitchell Gardner acknowledges estimate that almost Nefertari is depicted with a dark complexion, black 4 times, more often than the light complexions red and yellow. He indicates this in his own survey, suggests a much lower figure, although he cannot provide a general figure as he could not himself verify the colors on site. He also noted that there are other cases in which she is shown with a pink, golden dark blue, or dark red skin color. As observed by Gardner in some instances, almost Nefertari's skin is blue, the popular color symbolizing fertility, birth, rebirth, life, and usually used to depict water in the heavens. All right, so in 81, Galton called the issue of Nefertari's black color a, a, a serious gap in the Egyptological research, which allow approximation or untruth. He pointed out that there was no known depiction of her painted during her lifetime. She's represented with the same light skin as other represented individuals in the tomb TT15 before deification. The earliest black skin depiction appeared in tomb TT161, circa 150 years after her death. Barbara Liskell wrote in the 1996 that Amun Nefertari was sometimes portrayed by later generations as having been black, although a coffin portrait gives her the typical light yellow skin of women. So this also speaks to the fact that, you know, we can't look at the walls and look at the glyphs and necessarily know what's going on. Let me find another image of her. This right here is also an image of almost Nefertari. So you can see her depicted another way, the yellowish skin. That's her in the back. That's Amenhotep the first. That's him twice, and you got Amenhotep. Then you got Nefertari at the back. So you see her in yellow too. Right, so there's other depictions of that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as we get better and better with this, going through this Egypt conversation, man, I'm getting more and more in touch with how not to get tricked. You know what I'm saying? How not to get tricked by this community, man. I think when you operate in this community, you got to know how not to get tricked. You know, I got another conversation I want to go to that the argument was having, but before we even get to that, you know what I mean, we're gonna get on a little more educational conversation. I found a good discussion about Nubia. I think the scholar name is by Aaron D'Souza. So I'm gonna play a little bit what he said about Nubia, so we can get back on point. Man, if my Zoom will kick me out.
Great, thank you, Brooke. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr.
So as some of you would have seen from my social media things, that this will be my last public lecture as a Marie Curie Fellow at the. Okay, so the cultures that I am focusing on, as Aaron said in the introduction, are called the Middle Nubian cultures. And there are three of these called the C group, the Pangrave, and the Kerma traditions. They were all active in the Nile Valley of Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt and Lower Nubia, and a bit further around as well, between the years about 1850 to 1550 BC-ish, which is roughly contemporary with the late Middle Kingdom and Second Intermediate period in Egypt. I won't go through them all in detail because you can find more information about them in various books and things. But what I want to drive home now is that they were all defined and described and conceived by Petrie and Reisner in the early 20th century. So these are not ancient groups. These are modern constructs. And each of them was defined by a set of object types and practices, which is very much in keeping with the culture historical essentialist models of the early 20th century that dominated when Petrie and Reisner were working. So again, these are not ancient divisions. They were modern things that were imposed upon the archaeological record in order to highlight the differences between the groups. But what I'm trying to do with this project is to not focus on the differences, but focus on the things that link all these cultures together. Because actually you can see that there are, even just in the slide with this selection of images, you can see that there are a lot of similarities. And if we zoom in to a few of them, we can see that just from these objects, we can tell that there is some connection to pastoralism or some connection with cattle and livestock animals that connected all of these cultures. And this importance of livestock and pastoralism is reflected in their material traditions and their customs. So we can see that, for example, in the C group on the left-hand side of the screen, where there are cattle depicted on the bowl, but there's also this Kerma vessel, which has a ram-headed spout on it. We can also see that there are cattle surrounding the graves, that in some cases in the numbering in the thousands, around Kerma tumuli down in the bottom right there, which is similar to the Pangrave burials, where there are circular troughs around the graves. It contained animal skulls, and those animal skulls are like this painted one in the center of the screen. So you can see that there are a lot of things that actually do link these cultures together and that cross the boundaries between them. In terms of geographic distribution, all three were active in the Nile Valley of Egypt and Sudan. And we can see that the C group was active mostly in Lower Nubia and heading up towards Thebes as well. The Pangrave is by far the most widespread of them all. And this is spread in terms of material culture, not necessarily of people. Mostly concentrated from Middle Egypt, down to the Second Cataract, and then also in the desert surrounding those regions. And Kerma, of course, is centered on Kerma, but we also have Kerma material culture turning up further north into the Nile Valley, into Egypt. So we can see now that the cultures were all contemporary with one another, but they also overlap geographically. So we can, from that simple fact, we can deduce that contact and exchange between these groups and peoples and populations would have been inevitable. We also know that Egyptian texts contemporary with this period.
Yeah, Joe, I was just going back over, after I was going to this little Nubia video, I want to go back into other stuff, but I don't got the controls. I can't let nobody in right now, so I don't want to I kind of want to save it. This video right here was just dealing with Nubia, and then I found out that the Magi, don't even know what that means. They really don't know what the name Magi means. It could have been an occupation. They have no idea, like dudes, so they have no idea what Magi means. So, like, I just found that out. I said, when I heard Smash said Magi archers, I thought he was talking about like a ethnic group, a particular ethnic group, but they don't really know what it is. He speaks to it on this little video or whatnot. Yeah, I wish I could let everybody in and turn it up. I can't even put my Sosa World view on right now. I got booted out. Back to it a little bit
Show us that the Egyptians also recognized that there were various and multiple different groups and regions in Nubia. But those ancient groups that the ancient Egyptians identify, of course, don't necessarily correspond to what the Nubians themselves would have recognized. And again, those groups certainly don't correspond to the Middle Nubian divisions that were created by Peter and Reisner. So we've seen this text here on the left-hand side of the screen in the first lecture in this series by Dr. Salim Faraji. And it's a text from the tomb of Sobeknakht, the governor at El-Kab, from his tomb at El-Kab. And in this text, he tells us about Kushite-led raids that were conducted against El-Kab. And in this text, he names 5 regions. So he refers to Kush, who is in charge, which is what we know as Kerma, and then Wawat, which is Lower Nubia, Kentenefer, Punt, and the Medja. So Sobeknakht names 5 Nubian groups or Nubian regions, but we only have.
And also, he's speaking into this video that will sometimes get overlooked when we say Nubians. It's not like a. Yeah, I got kicked out there. Yeah, it ain't Nubians. He's showing like there's different groups of Nubians. So when you said, so when you think of Nubia, it's not like it's just one group of people. Like, so at different times, like, the Egyptian could be in conflict with one group of Nubians, right? And then cool with the other groups of Nubians, right? Because the Magi work with the Egyptians. Sometimes they work with the Egyptians and they fought against the Egyptians. Sawa said, Magi archers are Nubians as warriors. Nah, they don't know what Nubians is. They don't know what Magi means. I can play that. I can play that too, but we won't keep going.
Have 3 Middle Nubian traditions. So from that, you can see that there is no one-to-one correlation between the groups that were recognized by the ancient peoples and by us in the 20th and 21st centuries. And if we go back to those distribution maps and then we plot those regions on the map that we know of, so Wawat, Medja, and Kush, we can see that there isn't really any correlation between the distributions and these regions at all. So we can see that C group is usually associated with Lower Nubia, or Wawat as it was called back then. But you can also see that the C group material culture is attested further north up towards Thebes. The Pangrave tradition is often equated with the Medja. We'll come back to that in a second because there's something I want to say about that because it's a problematic thing. But you can see that the Pangrave material culture is attested way further than just what we think Medjar land was. And same goes for Kerma, which is supposed to be concentrated in Upper Nubia or Kush, but again, you can see that Kerma material culture turns up elsewhere. So there is this disconnect between the historical records and also the archaeological data that we have. But to return to this issue of the Medjar, and this is leading me into the next couple of slides, a lot of older scholarship has drawn a link between the Medjar and the Pangrave, the Medjar being the Egyptian term for these peoples from this region, and then Pangrave being the archaeological culture that was invented in the 20th century. I've never really been an advocate or a supporter of this line of reasoning, even though I know that there's been some criticism of that lately. But of course, there could have been a link between these two, the Pangrave and the Medjar, that might be possible, but we can't conclusively prove these things based on the evidence that we have, because we don't really actually know what Medjar means. The term Medjar, the meaning of Medjar changes over time. Kate Liska's written a whole PhD about this, and we've got a chapter coming out about it in the forthcoming Oxford Handbook of Nubian Archaeology. So this is a problematic connection, and it's always been problematic, and it's indicative of the problems that we face when we're trying to marry the historical records with the archaeological records.
Yes, he just said it right there. Like, we don't know what Magi mean, and the name changes over time. So there's no really understanding of what Magi meant.
And so the reason that I'm showing you this in this context, linking these regions to the distributions, is not to say that they are the same thing, clearly not. It's to show that there is a problem that we need to address. So if we continue with the discussion of the Magi, they are a really good example for how Nubians are not just Nubians. We can't just call anyone from south of the First Cataract Nubian, because we as we've seen, there are all sorts of different groups and regions and communities and populations. But we know that even the ancient Egyptians recognized that Magi could both be friends and enemies. Because we know that way back in the Old Kingdom, the Magi were working as soldiers in the Egyptian army. We know that there are women labeled as Magi on the sarcophagus of Queen Ashait. But at the same time, we know that the Egyptians tell us that Magi were involved in these raids against Egypt. So we've got this conflict between Magi working with us and for us, and Magi working against us. But it also tells us that the Egyptians were aware already back in those days that you couldn't just paint everyone with the same brush. Nubians were not just Nubians. So we also then need to break down the boundaries that we've imposed, or not that we, but that other people before us have imposed upon the ancient record that we have. So the key points that we need to remember at this point are that the groups that we have, C group, Pangrave, and Kerma, were created in the 20th century. They are not ancient groups, and they're things that have been imposed upon them, upon the archaeological record. Those groups and their definitions are essentialist. They imply that culture is bounded and that it's fixed and that it's immutable and that it's got, clear definable boundaries, but we know that that's not actually the case. The archaeological record is also messy. And this is a word that kept coming up in a conference that I hosted in September. And this messiness doesn't really lend itself to fitting neatly into boxes in the way that we wish it would. It just doesn't happen, but also quite problematic.
Yeah, Scout Chronicles, you said they were one of the Nubian tribes and ended up being a sort of ranger. You mean like a little police force, like a little mercenary group, possibly. Yeah, so they did work with, like, some work for the Egyptians, and then some of them work against the Egyptians. So, they ain't had no side.
Is that our perspectives that we've inherited of Nubia are heavily Egyptocentric. They were created by people who had ulterior motives in wanting to make Egypt sort of not African. But in that way, if we separate Egypt from Africa, we're losing a huge part of the story, because we can see that these regions were really interconnected. And so instead of dividing, which is what these...
Tell me something about, so we believe this dude now. Tell you tripping. And this was as a Nubianologist, man. Who you gonna listen to? You ain't gonna listen to a Nubianologist. Who you gonna listen to, bro?
This culture historical system does. We need to find ways that these cultures were actually interconnected. And that is what makes it more complex and more challenging. So to illustrate this idea of interconnections, I want to show you a series of maps that sort of schematically lays out where my brain is going with all of this stuff. So we'll start with the big division, which is Egypt and Nubia.
Hey, but that's a good point right here, though, and we be having this discussion right there too. See the blue line, not blue line, the blue circle. This is good. That's Nubia, Lower Nubia, and that's Upper Egypt, right? So, right, that's the first cataract. So they're trying to. These are the border areas, right? So he's trying to show the division area between Egypt and Nubia. But when he gets to talk a little bit more, he's gonna show like how these border lines aren't necessarily just straight across like that. Some of Lower Nubia is in Upper Egypt. It's like this little area right there where they both kind of cohabit, and even the Egyptians understood that. He's going to show that. It's just pretty dope.
Of course, bearing in mind that these terms are anachronistic, but that's another lecture for another time. But these two things are very often presented as if they're distinct cultural entities that don't mix, like oil and water. Egypt, we know from ancient texts and also from Egyptian ideologies that Egypt is the Nile Valley from the Mediterranean coast to the First Cataract, and then everything south of the First Cataract is Nubia. And we know that the First Cataract was perceived as this sort of frontier where Egypt ended. It's where the known counting system started, moving north. So there was always this sort of divide. But in reality, if we look at the archaeological evidence, we can see that there is really a lot of overlap between Egypt and Nubia, because Nubians, we know, were always in Egypt. There are Nubian burials and cemeteries going way back into the pre-dynastic period.
See, now he's showing it right here with this slide. So he's showing how that first cataract, how we think the first cataract is the border, is where it marks the borderline, so to speak. But you'll see that some of the Nubia actually goes into Upper Egypt, right? And even some of the burials. So he's saying like some of the burials be in Egypt. So you may see Nubian burials in Egypt, and it's other than Egyptian, and they know it's other than Egyptian, and they still allow it. So you see Nubians bury themselves in Egypt and still bury themselves using the traditional Nubian culture. And the Egyptian, they didn't even had a problem with it. So I'll keep going.
Period. We also know that Nubians were involved in the military, they were involved in mining and trade, they were working as temple staff for Egyptians, they were doing all sorts of things in Egypt. They were probably living there for centuries. Conversely, we know that Egyptians were always in Nubia. There were royal expeditions during the Old Kingdom into Nubia, there were fortresses in the Middle Kingdom, there was a New Kingdom colonization. So really the division between Egypt and Nubia is purely ideological. This First Cataract was never really a frontier. And we can even see this reinforced when we look at the Egyptian words for various regions. They have this term Tarseti, which we've heard from previous lectures as well, which was used as a generic term for the land south of the First Cataract, but it was also the name of the first Upper Egyptian nome. So already the Egyptians recognized that the southernmost part of Egypt, north of the First Cataract, was sort of almost considered as if it was part of Nubia, at least in name. But if we project forward into the New Kingdom, we know that the Viceroy of Kush, which was set up in the early 18th dynasty, we know that he had jurisdiction over the region as far north as Hierakonpolis. So again, that's in Egypt, it's north of the First Cataract. So administratively, and maybe even a little bit psychologically, the Egyptians did recognize that the southernmost part of Egypt was actually sort of Nubia, or that this region was some kind of overlap between the two. And
I said that region was like an overlap. A little small, that region right there, the upper and lower Egypt parts was overlap right there. So when they say they came from the south, yes, that southern part is Upper Egypt and also Lower Nubia. You know what I'm saying? So it's a mixture of both. You know what I mean? So said Nubia was black people. I don't know. You had to ask Aaron DeSouza about this.
then we can even add more layers onto this. We can divide Egypt into Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. We can divide Nubia into Lower Nubia and Kush, Lower Nubia, which is Wawat, or Upper Nubia, which is Kush. And so this is showing that there's even more complexity. And we even know that the ancient peoples were also recognize this complexity, because in the story of Sinuhe, we're told that a Delta man would be lost in Elephantine. So a person from the south would not recognize anything a person from the north would not recognize anything in the south. So the Egyptians were also cognizant of this diversity and these differences in their own land. We can take it a step further again by adding some regions from the Eastern Desert, which we know from the Egyptian words Ibhet and Medjay in the purple and yellow circles there. There are other regions which I could add, but I think what I've done here is try to.
Yeah, so he's saying right there, see that yellow, that little yellow region right there. That's what he's saying. That's where the Magi then was at. Like the little circle, the little other red circle. That's what the Kerma Nubians was at. And a little purple one, I forgot which one. I forgot which one these are here. But these different groups in these different geographical locations.
Demonstrate that all of these regions from the ancient texts and all of the ones that we think of in our heads, all of them overlap. So therefore contact between all of the regions and all of the peoples was surely inevitable, and that we can't really draw hard boundaries on ancient socio-cultural landscapes. But of course, as humans, we do try to do that. And if we superimpose the modern boundaries onto the map that I've just created with all the ancient ones, we can see that there is actually not any correlation between the modern boundary and what was going on back then. And in fact, the key point that I want to get across here is that Lower Nubia, which is in the pink circle towards the center there, is actually entirely in modern Egypt. And so we can then extend that to a consideration of how we approach this region as scholars in our disciplines. That when we divide Egyptology and Nubiology, that kind of reinforcing these boundaries that we know didn't exist and that don't work, but that we're also trying to undo. And this is a struggle that I've also had for a long time in Egyptology, where, you know, I study a lot of Nubian material and I'm often perceived as not really being an Egyptologist. But that's a problem, because we can see that a lot of Nubia is in Egypt. So we need to think about how we think about our disciplines and how we perceive our disciplines and where their boundaries lie, if there, or even if there should be boundaries at all. But to come back to this theme of diversity and complexity, what does it look like in the archaeological record? So I'll show you a couple of examples where we can see a lot of mixing and a lot of contact going on. And the first one of these is grave number 7 from a site called SJE site 410, which is located in the second cataract. So on the map there, you can see that little green star. And this cemetery was identified or excavated in the 1960s by the Scandinavian Joint Expedition to Sudanese Nubia. And the excavators identified this cemetery as a Pangrave and Kerma cemetery, but they noted that Pangrave and Kerma elements don't seem to occur together in the same unit.
See, he just proved that ancient Egyptians were black. How do you prove that with that fast? Yeah, the Nubians were always there in that area. Well, sort of. Well, you can't say always there in the area, because remember that group comes out of that the Green Sahara, so they come in contact with groups that already been there. So yes, some of those groups could have already been there. That's a fact. But then some of those groups came out of the desert area, so we don't, you know what I mean. So we gotta keep that in context. And I can't let anybody else in too, man. I'm gonna rock to about 8:40, and if not, I'll pop back in when I got more control and let somebody else on the panel out. We can build and chop it up. He said, but no one agrees Nubians are not black. So yeah, I ain't even worrying about the whole Nubian black thing. You want to make them black, they're black. The Egyptians thought they were black. They painted them black. I'm joking. Don't clip me up.
But I went to Sweden last year, and I spent a number of weeks in Uppsala at the Museum Gustavianum studying this collection, and noticed that in fact, Pangrave and Kerma elements, or at least what we think of as Pangrave and Kerma elements, do occur together in the same burials. So here on this screen, you can see that the pot in the blue square is or has parallels from Kerma sites like Kerma itself and from Sai Island. The pot in the red square fits all the criteria for a Pangrave vessel, at least according to our current definitions. And in the gray square, there is a bead, presumably Egyptian, made in faience, which is inscribed with the name of the pharaoh Senusret I. So we've got 3 different material traditions in one intact burial in Lower Nubia. We've got a Kerma type vessel, we've got a Pangrave looking vessel, and we've got an Egyptian bead. We're not in Egypt, we're not near Kerma, and we're sort of at the fringes of where Pangrave is supposed to end. So how did all these 3 things end up together? How do we explain it? Does it mean we've got our classifications totally wrong? And also the bigger question is, can we or should we even try to assign this grave to any particular tradition at all? It could be a Kerma burial, a Pangrave burial, an Egyptian burial, or none of those at all. It could be something else entirely different. We can see this sort of thing again at the site called El Wadi, which is down in the 4th cataract. On the map, you can see the little star. And this cemetery has a really mixed assemblage that actually seems more like a local variant. So this was excavated by the Oriental Institute Nubian expedition back in 2001, and I went to Chicago in 2008.
Uh-oh, somebody coming in the building, letting folks in. There it is. There it is. Fella, what's good? What's good, man?
What's good with it, bro?
Yeah, man. I thought it was a good, nice little video I was going over. Yeah, I ain't had the controls. I couldn't let everybody in, so.
Yeah, this dope. This dope. Even some scholars, I want to say add in, like even some scholars when he was talking about the C group, you know what I'm saying? A group, A group is really C group is really a continuation of A and B, really. You know what I'm saying? They would be I consider them like Nubian by region, but like they don't really call them Nubians no more. They just call it just C group culture, stuff like that. Because they actually were like most likely were Afro-Asiatic speakers. You know what I'm saying? And it's in that region, like, you know, it's like the Bija type or the Somali type people that was just over there. Like true Nubians, you know what I'm saying? Because even like, because you know, we all know Nubian is really a Romanistic term anyway. You know what I'm saying? By the time the Romans got there, you know what I'm saying, Kerma and all that would have been, you know, taken over and influenced that whole region. So it would have been, you know what I'm saying, had a heavily more Nilo-Saharan influence by then. You know what I'm saying? But the true, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote Nubians, you know what I'm saying, even where the language come from, you know, which is the Nilo-Saharan language come out of that Kerma culture.
Yeah.
Even pre-Kerma is not even Kerma. Pre-Kerma is just a period in Kerma where it was even still kind of being like, you know what I'm saying, mostly dominant like Afro-Asiatic Cushitic type people. You know what I'm saying? Till them people came in from the Eastern Desert and the Kerma people came in.
Yeah. But I thought it was good because he was giving a breakdown, because, you know, he was giving a breakdown of different culture, like Wawet, Magi. You know, he just calling that Kerma. I guess he really referring to the culture, Kerma culture.
And you had a lot of overlap too. So, you know,
yeah.
it wasn't like it wasn't like a damn TV dinner. You know, people in the mingle, mashed potatoes get into the peas and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's what he's saying about the upper Egypt and lower Nubia area. So he was saying like some part of lower Nubia was actually in Egypt, in upper Egypt.
Yeah, it's right down the borderline. That's why I say that's like that little strip. You know what I'm saying? That was like that was like an Afro-Asiatic Cushitic, you know what I'm saying, dominant area. Then you had the Nakata culture who spoke a whole nother Afro-Asiatic language family. And then, you know what I'm saying, the Cushitic type groups in the middle, they probably would, you know, they would have spoke Afro-Asiatic, but they still would have had some type of little mixture with some type of Nilos too, because they still in between, you know what I'm saying, the Nakata groups and the people that's even south to them.
Yeah. Yeah, but he breaking it down though, so it was good.
Yeah, I like how he going. Yeah, he going in.
Kyle, see, Mexico he wear black.
Ain't this the same dude that Smash been showing?
I think he's showing sometime. I think he might show Anderson sometime.
I don't see how he be getting stuff wrong, nigga. This dude on point.
Yeah.
To study the material firsthand. And this material is quite strange. So here in the center of the screen, you've got these two pots, if I use my cursor, these two vessels here, which look like they should be Pangrave in terms of their shape and their technology and their overall style, but they're not really. They're sort of a little bit weird.
Hey, but I look like mama. That look like mama pot right there, boy. The lima beans going in, boy. They had that thing, and that thing circled out, boy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like a modern day stew pot right there, boy.
Yeah. Even the powder, like the black top powder, I think it's a more of a Cushitic, you know, combo with Nilo-Saharan type of thing. Because Nilo-Saharan, they signature pottery is the wavy line pottery. That's like a cultural signature. Like even like you find like Nilo-Saharan cultures in West Africa, like the sun god, ancestor of the sun god, even the Keithians, you know what I'm saying, Jabirio, you still find that same wavy line pottery. You know, so even all the way down to, you know, the Turkana area, you know what I'm saying?
They said, Kyle said, the minute you push black, it's frustrating, basically. Chef was like, the fact that black is frustrating black people in 2024 is crazy work. It's frustrating, this conversation, man. So the God. It is. Yeah.
This one over here looks like what we should, most of us will be familiar with, classic Coma beakers.
Get some of that down.
We can also find some interesting connections if we look out into the deserts. So away from the Nile Valley, we're still fairly close to the Nile Valley, but not in the valley proper. And the one that I want to raise today, there are a number of them that I could talk about, but because of time, I just want to focus on this one called the Handesi Horizon, which is off to the west here. There's the Wadi Hawa, which runs off the Nile Valley there. It's sort of roughly between the third and fourth cataracts. But this site, or the Handesi Horizon, is mostly known for its pottery. It's in fact named after the style of pottery. And what we don't want to do, of course, here, which I should stress, is that we're not trying to use pottery to identify culture, because that can always be quite problematic, because we don't want to head down that road of
People trade.
so we need to
Yep.
Pottery is also incredibly
right. You talked about that.
So you said that
because you see it, just because you see pottery from supposedly Nubian and Lower Egypt, don't mean that the culture was there. You know, so they could have just got there.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's where the nucleus of the culture came from. It could have been traded that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We call that material culture. Yeah.
Useful because it is so abundant, and often in Nubian contexts, it's all that we have. So it's really useful, but we have to be careful with how we use it. So here we can see with the Handesi Horizon that the decorative styles are very similar to some Middle Nubian traditions from the Nile Valley. So we can see that there's these impressed interlocking triangles, these incised diamond motifs, which occur in the C group fairly frequently, and also these sort of triangles with comb impressed decoration. Of course, we're trying to avoid reducing cultures to pottery decorations and pottery styles, but it's hard to deny that there are some remarkable similarities between the Handesi pottery and materials from the Nile Valley. We can also see that it goes beyond decorative styles and starts to also head into technology and pottery making techniques. And so here we can see on the left-hand side of the screen some matte impressed pottery from the Handesi Horizon, which was found at the Wadi Harik, which is a bit further north, a little bit closer to Kerma. But the matting impressions are a remnant of the forming techniques. So the pottery was built on a mat. So now I've dealt with Nubia, I want to also move to north and look to the Nubian evidence that we find north of the First Cataract. And I say north of the First Cataract here very deliberately and not Egypt, because you'll remember that, as I said, Lower Nubia is entirely in modern Egypt. So to say that we're dividing Nubia and Egypt or Egypt and Sudan or whatever is a bit misleading, I think. So I'm focusing here instead on the land north of the First Cataract, which is that ideological boundary that we talked about earlier. So here is a list of sites where Nubian material culture or Nubian evidence has been documented north of the First Cataract. It's a fairly long list, but the list is not comprehensive and it doesn't actually denote every single individual site. So for example, at Mostageda, there was something like 8 places where Nubian burials were found. At Hierakonpolis, there are 3 Nubian cemeteries there. And of course, it only covers the period in question. There is other Nubian evidence from other periods from different places. The Nubian cemeteries, there's dozens of them in Egypt. They range in size from isolated burials to cemeteries of more than 100 graves. We also have Nubian evidence in Egyptian settlement contexts, from the delta down to the First Cataract at Elephantina and also along the Nile. So it's a 15-kilometer stretch of the Nile, but in this 15-kilometer stretch, there is a lot of Nubian evidence. So at Hierakonpolis, we've got 1 C group cemetery, we've got 2 Pangrave cemeteries, we've got a possible Nubian campsite, we've got Nubian style pottery from the settlement remains at El Kab.
Hey, I remember having an argument with Reggie and stuff. They was saying, because of because the burials there, like that made them Egyptian. You know what I'm saying? Just because you find Nubian burials in them, but it's like, Sosa was pointing out, like, their grave style was clearly a lot of them was Nubian in style and form. You know what I'm saying? Like, them folks was comfortable being, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they got
comfortable being Nubian. You feel me? Like, you got niggas today that want to be Egyptian. They ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like, them folks was proud of their Nubian culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wasn't embarrassed by it at all.
Like even some was like, integrated, like had a Nubian ancestor, a couple Nubian ancestors. Some of them still represented that, you know, so even though they had mostly Egyptian or Nakata type ancestry, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is like
I
Texas
like
and
what you.
Mexico. It's like Texas and Mexico. Like you got Mexicans here in Texas and Houston. Like, you know, they ride swingers and all that. Like and infused to the culture. Or like just some Mexicans just been here. Like they just been here since Texas been Texas. You know what I'm saying? Because they created that border and shit.
Right. Right. I'm sure it would be the same if they didn't have border patrol.
Yeah, and some of them shit. I know. I got Mexican homies don't even speak Spanish. Like they know a little bit. Like I don't even know this shit for real. Like.
With that, I thank you all for coming along and for paying attention, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much for your wonderful talk. I think that was a wonderful way to end your talk as well, for a plea for more collaborative research. We have a few questions coming in. One person wants to know if any of the Nubian tribes were nomadic.
Yes. So all of them probably were to some degree. So the sea group, or the Pangrave, is the most mobile of these groups, which is probably why it's so widespread. If you remember that map with the red one with this sort of big cloud. So the Pangrave tradition, or what at least we call the Pangrave tradition, seems to have been small groups of mobile pastoralists with herds of goats and cows and things. The sea group also might have been partially mobile or seasonally mobile.
Huh?
I would say the Pangrave, that shit spreads from the Red Sea Hills all the way to the eastern desert.
Yeah. Show like a little graph. I'll go pretty far.
Coma maybe also, but mobility was, which is why I brought it up a couple of times. I think that this movement of groups and peoples and objects and ideas is one of the really key things that we need to look into for this topic.
Were the Medjay a Nubian ethnic group?
That is an incredibly complicated question.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They like Bija type.
So I mentioned who's now associated.
Huh?
That's what I was saying. That met like that. He said it's complicated. I already know how he finna probably go with it. You know, the beat like the original Medjay was probably like a Bija group, but then later on, you know what I'm saying, Medjay just became like a police force, so anybody can kind of join. You know what I'm saying? You had Nilos Aryans joining. You had like straight up Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? That became Medjay.
Yeah, wow. And the names keep changing, so
like when it first started, it was more ethnic, more ethnic centered. But then after a while, you know what I'm saying, it became more of more of a political or like a job type of situation.
Yeah.
Professor at University of Southern California, is it San Bernardino? Or California State University, sorry, San Bernardino. But Kate wrote her whole PhD on the Medjay, and we still don't really know what it means. So is it an ethnic term for a particular group of people? Is it a geographic term for people that come from a particular place? Is it an occupational term? What is it? The Pangrave and the Medjay have often been connected, but as I said, that this is such a problematic thing that cannot be proved one way or the other. That in the Old Kingdom, we see Medjay working as soldiers. In the Middle Kingdom, they're doing mercenary stuff. And then in the New Kingdom, they become police, but sometimes they're also temple attendants. They're also nomads trying to get into Egypt. In the Seminar Dispatches talks about Medjay trying to come to Egypt. They get turned back to the desert. So we don't really know what Medjay actually means, at least to the Egyptians. But yeah, it's I guess, yeah, maybe, I mean, and also the whole idea of ethnicity in ancient Egypt is also problematic, as we don't know whether that was a thing that actually was important to them. So yeah, it's really complicated, and I'm not sure I can answer.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, I don't know if I can answer. It's complicated.
They just gotta work it out, yeah.
They're still doing homework on that.
Way.
I guess as a follow-up to that question, someone wants to know if some of the Nubian ethnic groups were Nilotic.
Yes, so all of the ones that the three groups that I talked about, so the Pangrave, C group, and Kerma. So Kerma and C group were concentrated mostly on the Nile Valley. Pangrave, we think, came from the east, and then for some reason moved into the Nile Valley. Sort of maybe some population.
Stop. The Pangrave.
Huh?
I said that's what he was saying. They fade from the east. You know what I'm saying? From the east, like the eastern deserts and the Red Sea Hills, towards the Pangrave C group type. You know what I'm saying? Because they were more of like a Afro-Asiatic Cushitic type group. Then like he said, the Kerma definitely would have been a lot of. But then too, like C group culture, like when it declined, like it infused. Like some people became Egyptian, stayed in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Some people infused with the Kerma culture and just learned the language and assimilated, with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Tells is crazy.
By the late 12th dynasty, and they were there until the beginning of the 18th dynasty. But that's, of course, not to say that they were all in the Nile Valley. So I showed you those pictures of the Handesi pottery, for example, which has a lot of similarities in terms of technology and style to things from the Nile Valley. So maybe that's like another sub-branch. We also have one that I didn't talk about, which is the Jebel Mokram group, which comes from the northeastern desert in Sudan, near Kassala. And their pottery very often is completely indistinguishable from Pangrave pottery from the Nile Valley. So are these also two branches of the same thing, or are they actually different, or what's going on there? So yes, primarily they are in the Nile Valley, but that's, again, according to the frameworks that were given to us by Petrie and Reisner. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was that way. And it doesn't really seem like it was that way anymore.
All right, we have some questions about the pottery. Are Egyptian deities represented?
Right.
No, I'll compare like a good comparison, to what they describing would be the modern day like Nora people that's like outside of Nubians themselves would be like the Nora people in the retreat, like the Nora people, or even the Kanuma and the Nora. They both not Nilo-Saharan groups. You know what I'm saying? Especially Nora. Nora is actually related, like closely related to the Nubian language, like linguistically. You know what I'm saying? But like if you look at the people, you know what I'm saying, they have, some of them have a Nilo look, and then some of them have like a Eritrean type look. You know what I'm saying? But they all part of that group. But they speak a Nilo-Saharan language. It's just, you know what I'm saying, they've been in the area so long, so say they mix with people, even people that was outside their own nucleus, and they became that group too.
How much evidence is there for east-west movement and exchange? So, for example, caravans or trading outposts?
Not a huge amount, really. And I guess because especially with mobility, because it is often so ephemeral, it's hard to know. It's hard to make these sort of observations. So usually you find things at point A and point B, but you don't necessarily, that might look like they're related, but you don't have anything in the middle. So you don't know whether there is something, connecting those two things. I mean, we do have, for example, a lot of Pangrave cemeteries and Pangrave evidence on the west bank of the Nile, even though we think that Pangrave people came from the east. So they were able to cross the Nile. So there is a little bit of evidence for there being, start points and endpoints, but in terms of the routes that they talk, it's anyone's guess. Although one thing that I can maybe say that might answer the question a little bit is that what I found in my PhD is that most of the sites, where we had the densest evidence for Pangrave activity, is usually at major wadis that come out of the eastern desert. So it's like that they were sort of settling near where these routes were that led to and from the desert.
Would the Egyptian empire consistently think of Nubia as a conquered or subject territory?
That's the chief exposition right there. Would they consider Nubia conquered territory. Let's get to it.
Oh yeah.
At least in words.
Some about too though. It's a lot of
I
back.
think that they, in their ideologies and their texts, they at least said that they did. But when you actually look at what's happening on the ground, I don't think it was ever really the case. So, like I said in one of the last slides, that the Egyptians tell us Nubians are vile and wretched, blah, blah, blah. They're there to be destroyed. They've got them on their soles of their sandals so they can trample them with every step. But then there are Nubians, well, they were always in contact with Nubia. Whether Nubians were living there, I mean, Nubians were certainly dying there and were burying their dead in Egypt. And importantly, they were allowed to bury their dead in a non-Egyptian manner.
Hey, that's a good point right there. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you look at the release, and you see them. Man, boy, they hated the Nubian, man. It was, but then but he's like on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Nubians is everywhere. They're everywhere. They, you know what I'm saying? They're chilling in Egypt. You know what I'm saying?
And then it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like it was a monolith anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right, because you could be beefing with one group of Nubians and cool with another group.
Yeah, like the C group people, like even by them being Afro-Asiatic people, they probably would lean more towards Egyptians anyway. They already speak a related language and shit, so they already kind of relate, you know what I'm saying, with each other. So you find a lot of them kind of link. Even some of them have the same lineages. But the most later on, you know, so during the 18th, like I say 17 to the 18th dynasty, the reason you see so much emphasis of Nubians being hated on is because of that karma culture, bro. Karma literally right before the 17th dynasty, karma embarrassed Egypt or Thebes. You know, they was about to destroy it, go in on them, you know what I'm saying? Like during that time. They was even joining up with the Hyksos, you know what I'm saying, the Asian Hyksos.
Yeah, they pressed the line up pretty they had Egypt boxed in between them and the Hyksos. They pretty boxed in.
Yeah, because like Thamos and Amos and them, they had confiscated some type of letter. There was like some type of letters that they was writing information back and forth, and they confiscated one up. You know what I'm saying?
I seen that. Yeah. Trying to get it, trying to figure out like what's the mood, like shit. Y'all trying to do something?
Because karma culture conquered Lower Nubia. You know what I'm saying? Lower Nubia is his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Karma culture conquered them before they even, went further up north to put their hands on Thebes and all them other dudes.
Yeah. Get this last little piece in, and I'm gonna watch the damn game for a little while, man. Watch the Lakers. Now, Papa, you hold on. You going live tonight too, Gullah, right?
Yeah, I'm going live tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna continue the band two expansions.
Turn your live so let everybody know right now. Listen.
11 o'clock. I'm working on two, picking a day. I'm gonna do another live stream day too, or I just do talk about miscellaneous stuff. You know what I'm saying? I might even go in on Nubia again.
All right, for sure. So we're gonna check Gullah live about 11. Shit, what's that our time? 12 our time?
Yeah, 12 our time, yeah. And that's the Al Jaheed's podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like and subscribe, please. You know, it's an up and coming channel. Yeah, I got about damn near 40 streams in now. You know what I'm saying? If y'all want to check out the old streams too.
For sure, man. Yeah, but check out the Al Jaheed's podcast, man. Probably popping over there about noon. That be shit again. I'll be off. I'll be chilling. Pop up on you for the bill. Let him wrap up his little comment.
We're quite happy to have these people doing that, displaying their otherness in their territory. And I think that's an important consideration as well, is that then breaks down this whole idea of Egyptian superiority and dominance, and that rather everything was all mixed together.
Yeah. I wanted to get that part in too. Like, it was more impromptu than I damn wanted to, because I had a relief, but it was you can see like two magi women in the tomb. I think it's almost Nefertari. It's almost Nefertari. You know what I mean? As a relief for her sitting down chilling in the black. You know, they got they always have Nubians painted black, jet black, and she in there, and there's two magi women in the back just chilling, like in part of the scene, so you can see their connectivity. You feel?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna pull it up tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be more organized. I could be the host, and I can set it up like Sosa World, man. And see Gideon and you in there posted. You got anything you trying to say, Gideon, on the closeout?
I'm just saying, shoot, stay safe and stay dangerous with this science, man. You know what I'm saying?
Gideon, what you got, Gideon? Close out.
Just and listening to the convo here and there.
Yeah.
Got a
Damn.
phone call that tripped me out. But yeah, I'm learning a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Learning a
I
lot.
came in on
Like I was saying earlier, bro, like we had a disadvantage with a lot of this stuff, bro, because of how vague the they're trying to make sense of what you got. You know what I mean? So definitely science is like got to be at the forefront. Got to be at the forefront.
Yeah. And then you know what I tell you what's been helped, like a lot of time, man, once you get a little bit more educated on shit, go back and watch the older shows. Like you have a better understanding of it. You feel me? Like I've been doing that. Like now that I've been paying attention to the damn blips, 09 and goddamn alternatives. Now I go back and watch the video, understanding way more, and I've been like, hold on, I can see how you messing that up. Even my little limited information, I don't think that's right. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
Yeah, man.
You can make determinations based upon what you've read and what you've learned, and listening to what they're saying now, you can make a determination from whether their information is correct or it's BS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, man, thank everybody for coming through, man. Hopefully watch these Lakers upset these Nuggets, man. Y'all man, pull up for Al He's podcast, 12 Central, 12 Eastern, man. Y'all popping, man, to fall through, man. But peace to y'all brothers, man. Peace to everybody in the chat, man.